We designed a new PDW for a better round by TREX Labs. Is 5.7 the new 9mm, or is there a better round? 5.7 prices have been going down. A lot of people are embracing it. Let's see. Everyone said 5.7 shit round, so let's actually see what people think about it. Let's see.
In this video, we're going to talk about two things. Two pretty big trends in the gun world. The first is the 5.7 round from FN, and then the second is PDWs. Are these two separate things that are happening? Are these two different weapon platforms to solve two different problems? Or do we, here in this very video, need to invent an entirely new, never before seen firearm?
Ooh. Okay. Yo, Busta Hunter, thank you for 10 again, dude. Thank you so much. Dude, Busta Hunter, thank you so much. Thank you for always supporting. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you. Hope you're having a good one. Night, Spyfield Bennett. Have a good one.
So let's ask the first question
Thanks
right
for the
now.
bits,
A question
Spider.
that everyone will love and nobody will be offended by.
Good night.
Is 5.7 the new 9mm? Now, before you answer and get super offended down in the comments section, you should remember your history. 9mm is now about 100 years old. And when it was about 40 years old, that's when 9mm Parabellum became the standard. And it began to replace 45 because it was lighter and faster. It had less recoil and a higher mag capacity. And today, 5.7 is about 40 years old and it's becoming more standard. Will it replace 9mm because it is lighter and faster, has less recoil, and allows for higher magazine capacity? Now, I expect this idea to get...
It's because the 5.7 bullets are like kind of their profile, like if you stack them, they're smaller. Because they're the diameter of the actual bullet is less than the 9mm.
Some massive pushback.
This is the problem with 45, by the way, is like they're fat.
In the comment section, maybe even some emotionally negative responses because after all, a long time ago, there was a lot of pushback against 9mm and even the intermediate rifle cartridges in the 60s and the 70s. These cartridges had no stopping power. And, well, I will say gun culture today no longer has the same attitude about 9mm or 5.56, but somehow we have still maintained, I would say, similar attitudes about other things. And we've kept a lot of FUD.
I think what they mean by stopping power is like the projectile isn't as big. The projectile is really small. It's small and requires it relies on velocity basically.
Today we laugh at
it's like 45 is like a chunky ass like projectile.
Stopping power, but we still have some of the same hangups. If you will permit me a very short rabbit trail, I believe that gun culture is bad at honoring fathers, but good at continuing their mistakes, which is literally the worst of both worlds. We want to try to have the best of both worlds, actually. So we need to recognize guys that came before us, like Jeff Cooper. We need to recognize that he was great at some stuff, and because time has passed, maybe he's not the ultimate word on other stuff. So Jeff Cooper, just for example, hated 9mm because it was too weak and anemic, just like 5.56 with its pitiful, tiny bullets. And it's easy to think about Cooper as an old-fashioned FUD kind of guy because he loved 45 ACP and big bore bolt action rifles and lever guns. And he was always talking about mindset and carry conditions, and he was an IPSC shooter. But you have to remember that he was a very advanced pioneer in his day. He helped invent IPSC, and he named it the Practical Shooting Confederation on purpose. He's the guy who named the carry conditions. He was one of the very first people to write about combat mindset, and he didn't just complain about 9mm. He actually went out and invented 10mm auto. So I think a little respect is in order. Also, to be fair to the critics in the 70s, the 9mm that was manufactured back then was less consistent and less predictable than today's 9mm. Also,
basically, there's been a lot of innovations and like kind of like making different materials, different shapes of the projectiles.
less powerful. We have much better ammo now. We got plus P rounds, we got plus P plus rounds. And so by the 1990s, gun culture finally accepted 9mm as a lethal round, even though it had no stopping power. And then eventually everyone accepted 5.56 as a lethal round, even though it is a really tiny bullet.
Yeah.
But today everyone understands this. Everyone knows that 5.56 is way deadly.
Yeah, the 5.56, the actual projectile of 5.56 is smaller than the 9mm.
Then
Is it? It is, right, in total. I know it's the diameter is less, but is it in total the projectile is less? I'm pretty sure it is. I'm like 99%.
They've been in common use for a long time, and there have been a lot of police reports that we have all read where lots of 9mm rounds were used with basically.
Isn't it like effectively like a 22? Yeah, it is. Yeah.
No effect, and then a few shots of 5.56 come into play, which are suddenly extremely effective, and that is because speed matters. It is a very important part of kinetic energy. I'm not going to put the math up on the screen, but the way that it works is the mass of a projectile increases the energy of that projectile in a linear way, but velocity increases the energy exponentially. So let's talk about 45 for a minute. In the words of the fans of 45 ACP, it really packs a wallop. Unfortunately, it's the one type of ammo that I couldn't find in the T-Rex ammo bay. I thought for sure we would have some, but I don't have anything here to show you guys. But the average federal round, which is a 230 grain bullet coming out of a 5-inch barrel, has about 850 to 950 feet per second of velocity, which means 350 to 450 foot-pounds of energy. And if you want to compare that to 9mm out of the same 5-inch barrel.
The other thing you have to worry about too, though, is like the energy transferring into the target. That's like another thing that maybe it was different back in the day due to different projectile shapes. Is if a thing is so small and it's going so fast, it could just pierce the target completely without actually transferring any of that energy into the target. Well, not any. Of course, it's going to transfer some, but like not like the whole thing. Right. Whereas if you shot someone with like a 45, right, it would hit them, and then like it I guess compared to like a high velocity round, like a lower velocity round has less of a chance of fully penetrating, which means more of like the actual energy from the projectile being fired actually transfers into the target to deal damage, right? Despite the energy being less. So there's like kind of like a calculation here that they probably were making back in the day. And we probably have more of an understanding of that now.
Technically, it would have to be a different 5-inch barrel, one that's actually meant to shoot 9mm. But you would get this bullet here, which is a 115 grain bullet. That'll get you about 1,100 to 1,200 feet per second. Which
I think grain is the mass of the total mass, not the weight. Mass
turns into
not the volume or the weight; it's the mass.
300 to 350 foot-pounds of energy. Very, very close.
So you can have two bullets that are 9mm that have different grains, where one has more mass than the other, despite being the same volume.
In terms of power, for half of the weight. To further explain the importance of velocity on this equation, let's look at 5.56 for a second. The bullet is tiny. It's 55 grains, but it comes out of the AR-15 going 3,000 feet per second, which means that it hits with 1,200 foot-pounds of energy. So it's got half of the weight of the 9mm bullet, but because it's going 3 times faster, it's got 4 times the energy. So speed is really key for developing that energy, and neutralizing a threat is all about energy transfer.
And this is why, by the way, that the shorter barrels are worse for higher velocity guns. This is why this is the negative of SBR. So the positive of SBRs is like they're easier to control in terms of space. But then there's less time for the pressure to transfer into. So, okay, this is how it works. Okay, there's the barrel, right, and then you have an explosion that occurs with the gunpowder. Now the explosion is behind the projectile, right? So the projectile is traveling down this pressurized chamber, right, with the explosion behind it. The longer the barrel, the longer there is time for the bullet to build up velocity under the pressure of the blast wave behind it, right? So if you have a shorter barrel, there's less time for that bullet to like build up acceleration because, things have to accelerate, right? If it's starting at like 0 velocity, it takes time to accelerate up, right? So if the barrel is shorter, there's less explosion. There's less of the explosion, less time for the explosion to bring the projectile up to like its maximum speed. Which is why if you actually use a shorter barrel, you're gonna have less velocity than a longer barrel. Does that make sense? The explosion is less concentrated. Yeah, exactly. You're gonna lose a lot, and this is why if you shoot a short barrel, if you ever see people shooting a short barrel, you see like a giant fireball, right? You like whenever they shoot it, you see like it's like a giant fireball coming out the front, right? And that's because a lot of the energy is going into the air, right? Versus in the longer barrel, like most of that energy is pushing the bullet, right? So it's pushing, and then you get all of that fuel going into the bullet through a longer barrel. Which again, in a short barrel, a lot less of that energy, a lot more of that energy escapes through other means, escapes into the air. Escapes through, and this is why, by the way, SBRs are loud as fuck, because a lot of that energy, the energy that makes the sound of the bullet is that energy is leaking out of the gun basically and making those noises rather than it being concentrated in the velocity of the bullet.
More energy is good for you and worse for the target. That's the basic math. But there's a little bit more to it than just that energy transfer equation. Living organisms are kind of complicated. You got that energy transfer, then there's the infrastructure collapse that happens if structural integrity is compromised by a projectile. Then
you have like the shockwave too. A lot of the damage from a bullet, this is especially so with velocity compared to like lower velocity projectiles. So lower velocity projectiles deal a lot of damage in terms of like physical damage, like the physical bullet itself affecting the person, right? Like for instance, if you shot someone with a slow moving cannonball, you're hitting them with this big ass cannonball that's like impacting their flesh. And then the cannonball itself is like is the thing that is dealing the damage. However, when you're dealing with a small projectile with high velocity, a lot of the energy is through, if there's like a pond, right? If you have a pond and you throw a rock into the pond, it ripples, right? You see like a rippling effect, right? Like from the point of impact of the rock, there'll be ripples, right? The human body is mostly made out of water. So the same thing occurs in the human body where the bullet hits the body and then all of the water in the body basically it ripples out. And yeah, it creates like a hydrostatic shock, which is the damage basically. So the damage is the ripples basically in the water, is a lot of the damage from these smaller high velocity projectiles, right? And that's what causes it. Yeah.
The blood removal component, people are kind of like juice cans.
That too, yeah, sorry. That too, and that's a reason why people use hollow points, because hollow points will basically, what hollow points are intended to do is when they hit an object, instead of like, so if you have like a non-hollow point, like Full Metal Jacket or like piercing, like the ones that have like a kind of like a more like aerodynamic looking tip or whatever, right? They basically are meant to pierce through something, right? Hollow points are meant to hit something, and then the energy. So for example, if you think of like a bowl, right? If you took a bowl and you were to like hit something with it, the energy would hit the outside of the bowl, right? Like instead of the inside of the bowl, right? Because then if you smash the bowl against the wall, all of the energy from the impact of the bowl hitting the wall is going to be on the rim of the bowl, right? Rather than if you imagine if you had a ball instead, like a ball or like a flat plate. Like if you had a plate and you smashed it against the wall, all of the plate would contact the wall, right? If you had a flat plate, it would all contact the wall. Whereas if you have a bowl, only the outside contacts the wall. So what happens is it hits and then it peels back, kind of like a flower. It basically, the sides of the bowl hit the thing first and they kind of go out. They go out and back. as the thing smashes into the wall. And that's the effect of a hollow point, is that it transfers all of that, a lot more of the energy, because it wants to stay put. It wants to stay put, and it wants to flower rather than continue through.
The fluid comes.
We get the idea of expansion. I'm pretty sure, Oxide, there's a lot of people that don't know about this. And like, I get that there's a lot of people here that get that because they're gun people, but there's a lot of people, I mean, like, chat, how many of you guys know all of this shit already? How many of you don't know all of this shit already that I'm saying? See, I'm a newbie to guns, says Delta Prime. This is really nerdy shit, to be honest, for sure. Knows nothing. See, there's a lot of people that don't know all of this stuff, and I'm trying to explain it to them, because how do you make people more informed about guns, more interested, and like how do you make people less fearful about guns? Is you explain it to them. No, but we're explaining it in terms of guns. Oxide, we're explaining it in terms of, we're talking about guns. That's what we're talking about. Yes, it's physics. Many things are physics, but what we're talking about is specifically physics in relation to guns. So like, if you don't explain it to people that they're not going to know what I'm talking about. They're not going to know what he's talking about. The audience, the reason I slow down and I explain these things is for people that don't know about it. It's not for people that know. If you know about it, then good for you. I'm not explaining it for you. I don't think you're dumb by explaining it. I'm explaining it because I want people to understand more, and hopefully they fear guns less because they have a more of an understanding of how it works. So the next time they see like, oh yeah, they're gonna use like, you know, those scary hollow point magazine clipperine like 20 round drum mag, right? Like people will understand more like what people are talking about. They're not gonna be like those politicians that don't know what the fuck that they're talking about. So you understand like why the purpose of hollow points, how they work, and why they're necessary for people to have.
Comes out a little faster if you make multiple holes. But then there's the hydrostatic shock or hydrodynamic shock stuff, or cavitation. Ballistic gel is great for showing some of this, but it doesn't tell the whole story. We'll talk more about the ballistic gel later. So more speed means more energy, but above a certain threshold of speed, it also means there's extra damage occurring inside the organism because of these extra fluid effects, hydrodynamic effects inside the giblets. So that obviously brings us back to 5.7. The projectile is really similar to 5.56 in a lot of ways. It's got less speed than 5.56, but it's got way faster speeds than 9mm. So how does it actually do? Well, out of a 4.7-inch barrel, which is what the FN57 comes with, a 32-grain bullet is going to hit speeds of over 2,000 feet per second, maybe as high as 2,100. And that's going to develop 315 foot-pounds of energy, which is really similar. It's within spitting distance of the 9mm. But because it is moving at that much higher velocity, it probably is reaching the speeds at the muzzle for some of those really disturbing, liquefying hydrodynamic effects. Now, a lot of this is sort of guesswork. 5.7 currently in the real world is rare enough that we've seen only a few real-world action taking place with it. So a good example to bring up might be the 2009 Fort Hood shooting. You can look into the details yourself. I'm not going to go over them here, but there does seem to be a really high lethality for center mass shots. And then...
yeah, 5.7 is like really freaking lethal if you like land a hit on center mass. It's pretty huge compared to like 9mm. I don't know how true this is, but I've heard the problem is that the lethal effect. So the thing with humans is humans have like battle continuation. So it's like, even if they take a mortal wound, it doesn't mean that they're down, right? Like a person could be like, they're cooked in like a couple minutes, but then they're still up. And the still up factor is like what people talk about with stopping power. That's what they're talking about with that. Like incapacitation power versus lethality. Because when it comes to guns, especially self-defense, like home use self-defense stuff, it's different from the military. But for home defense and like personal defense stuff, you want incapacitation power, not lethality. You want the opposite, basically, because you ideally don't want to kill them, but then you want them to stop attacking you. That's the ideal there. So like if you shoot a person center mass with like a 5.7 and then they bleed out like 10 minutes later, it doesn't really help you.
Because this is used in Europe.
Especially someone that's freaking adrenaline up and then, you know, maybe they're cracked out as well. Yeah.
You can get kind of anecdotal data about what it kind of does. But even outside of the damage caused by the round, the energy transfer, etc., there are some other advantages presented by this little round here. It is a littler round. Its smaller diameter means that it gives you much greater mag capacity, and it gives you much lower recoil, which means you should be able to get better round placement. And while it started out as an incredible
5.7 is like compared to 9mm, it's very snappy and like really easy to shoot. It feels good to shoot like 5.7 compared to like 9mm or anything bigger. It like has like this kind of like poppiness to it that's like not too, it's not like a thonk, it's like a pff when you shoot it. And so it's like when you do shoot it, it's like it's so much easier to keep on target with it and like follow up shots, basically. I guess the recoil is better, basically. But it's not just, how to explain it. It's like the recoil, I don't know how to explain it. Really flat shooting, that's what I mean. What Dragon Sight said, this is really flat shooting, yeah.
Incredibly rare, hard to find, and expensive round. It is now getting major.
It's not really the sound. It's not the sound. It's like a feeling. It's hard to explain. It's like if you shoot guns, you know what I'm talking about. Some guns go thonk, and some guns go psh. It's like kind of hard to. If you shoot a gun, you'll know what I mean. Like when you're shooting like a chunky projectile, it has like a thonk feel to it. Yes. Yeah.
Traction. FN has made a pistol and a PDW for it, obviously, but Ruger makes a pistol and a PDW and a rifle, and PSA makes a pistol and a PDW is coming. Keltec makes a PDW and a pistol is coming, and then Smith & Wesson makes a pistol. It might be the best 5.7 pistol that is on the market at the moment, and then CMMG and Diamondback, a whole bunch of people make little 5.7 AR PDWs, and everybody is making ammo for it now. So the price has come way down, the availability has come up. So, is it the new 9mm? For the record, this is not deliberate like comment section engagement. We're honestly asking the question, but we know there's gonna be a lot of comments.
Oh yeah, people are gonna.
So yeah, 5.7.
Some people love this round and some people fucking hate it. And the problem with it is it was so meme before because like you said, it was so expensive. Like there's like always a meme of like, why carry a 5.7? Because you might as well just give them your wallet because it's worth more than the bullets that you would shoot them. If somebody sticks you up, you're better off giving them your wallet than giving them than the rounds that you're gonna have to like defend yourself with. It's like it's been like the meme the whole time. But 5.7 rounds have decreased in price over time. Like I know this because I always buy 5.7. I have a nice like stockpile of 5.7. Every time I see 5.7 on sale, I always buy it. So I definitely have seen the shift over the last 10 years of like the price of 5.7 going down.
Is almost exactly the same muzzle energy out of a pistol barrel.
How much do they cost? We can look right now. Looks like we're at 50 cents per round now. That used to be over $1. 50 cents per round for 5.7. Nice. Sweet.
As the 9mm. I estimate it has
Fox is
about
40 cents a round?
25% less
Nice.
recoil. You get about 25% more.
That's also by the way, that's also considering like the inflation of ammo prices. Even 9mm has gone up a lot. So actually, if you think about it, the price of all other ammo went up, and the price of 5.7 went down. So big W for 5.7.
Bullets in the same size of magazine, and let's be optimistic or pessimistic and say that you get 25% more shock tissue damage and a flatter trajectory. I've got to say, this thing is actually
Why is the 5.7 bullet shaped like a rifle? It's made in this. It's basically the same thing. It's just a mini version of it.
Growing on me as a pistol round, even though it was originally designed as a personal defense weapon.
It was made for the P90. The P90 and the 5.7 were the 5.7 guns. The P90 was like the PDW, whatever, like SBR, whatever you want to call it. And then the 5.7 was meant to complement the P90 and use the same ammo, because it's like kind of useful to like use the same ammo for both, so that you don't have to worry about like two different ammos, like running out of one, and like you don't have to worry about that.
So it shoots very soft.
FN, yeah, that's right. My favorite.
And it's extremely pointable. So, yeah, I gotta say,
it feels so good to shoot 5.7. It's crazy.
for controllable.
Except your wallet. Before, your wallet didn't feel good. You felt good shooting it, but your wallet definitely, your wallet was definitely bleeding.
Shooting, even out to some reasonable distances, this thing is easier than 9.
What do you think about 4.6 MP7? I'll worry about it when I can buy an MP7.
And just feels nicer than 9. And
my mom shot an MP7. I've never shot an MP7, but my mom has shot an MP7, so you'd have to ask her.
like I said, M&P is probably the nicest 5.7 that you can get for a reasonable price right now. It's good stuff. So now we have to ask question number 2. Is right now the golden age of the PDW? The answer is yes, obviously.
PDW stands for personal defense weapon. These are like terms that are kind of thrown around for like the same thing. PDW, personal defense weapon, and the other is PCC, which is pistol caliber carbine. Those are kind of the classes of guns that they have come up with. They're not the same, by the way. They're not the same. I'm just referencing both just for like future knowledge. PDW is, I actually don't know really what a main definition of it would be, but it's basically like a small, like close quarters. It's like a compact like rifle that is easier for maneuverability and easier for storage. So it's easier to carry because it's smaller than like a full size rifle. It's easy to carry on you. It's a lot less burdensome to carry in tight spaces, and it's better for like kind of these closer range stuff, like kind of indoorsy stuff, because when you have a long barrel, you have to worry about corners and walls, basically, right? Like if you enter a doorway, you have to worry about like the full barrel length when you're like kind of maneuvering, right? And with a smaller gun, you don't have to worry so much about it. A lot of SMGs fall into the PDW category. You probably have like your like your UMP, MP5, P90, Chris Vector, MCX, like these kind of guns, basically. Oxide says they were mainly made for non-frontline troops and personal protection details. Yeah, they weren't intended to be like main military battle rifles. They were basically like for support troops, so that the support troops like weren't burning as hard, right? Because they have other shit to do. Like they're either gonna be like, it was also used like by people in tanks, right? Because like carrying like a full ass rifle in like a tank is like kind of annoying, right? So it was like made for like that, and then like support troops, like troops that are like doing like shit behind the scenes, basically, where they don't want to carry something like so big, so they can perform their other function a lot more efficiently. Yeah.
Obviously, yes. Everyone is super excited about PDWs. They're a very hot trend in the gun industry right now. And so, as 5.7 is rising in popularity as well, isn't this just the perfect round for PDWs? Well, I say the answer is no. Possibly, obviously, no. Now, this might surprise you because you remember your history. In 1985, NATO wanted to replace this ancient, old, lame 9mm round, and so FN started working on the P90 in 1986. And all the development was going around the 5.7 round, that very cool magazine, and the P90 PDW concept simultaneously. The 5.7 pistol development happened years later, and then meanwhile, while they were doing this, H&K was developing the 4.6 round to go into the MP7. And speaking of
The other
Floodlords,
thing too is that the obvious advantage of like PDWs is not realized in anything that you could own, like anything personally defensive you could own, because full auto is not allowed, basically. So
there are a lot of myths around the original purpose of 5.7, and
like
the
the
sketchy
Vector, for instance, like the Vector is like a full auto like beast. That was like its entire function, and you can't full auto with it. So it's kind of like you can't even burst with it. So it's kind of like, you know.
trials process and armor penetration, and we don't have time to go into all of those, but 9-Hole Reviews, as usual, has some fantastic historical explanations and explorations of stuff that was going on at that time. But in short, the Belgians were winning the trials, and the Germans complained, as Germans often do, and so the 5.7 was not officially adopted. But the P90 just looked so stinking cool that it was instantly inserted into every video game and every sci-fi movie of the 1990s.
Stargate!
And
I love Stargate.
I personally love the P90.
It looks so cool. The P90 looks so cool. Every other brand mentioned, but not High Point. I don't know much about High Point, to be honest.
Kind of irrationally and emotionally. It's not just the games and the movies, although I have fond memories of those. Soldier of Fortune wrote an article about the P90 development program.
Honestly, I love like holding the P90. Like it feels so good, like in my hand. I don't know if that's just me. Like, I don't know. It feels nice to hold it.
In the 90s, which totally changed my understanding of engineering and weapons development and testing when I was little. It was probably a very formative thing for me. And
P90 is
just
elf-sized.
so bold, and it's so interesting. It's such a great outside-the-box concept and project. But now, many years later, to be perfectly honest, I don't actually want one very badly. And it's partly because it's chambered in 5.7. As interesting as 5.7 is, in my opinion, as a handgun round, I'm kind of less interested in it for PDWs. And I'm also a little less interested.
Damn it, I was hoping he was going to say that 5.7 was a goated PDW round so I could justify buying a P90 and behind my mom's back.
In the form factor of the P90. Now remember, in the
Buy one anyway, too expensive. Too expensive. I already have 2 SBRs.
80s, your classic PDW would have looked like this.
That's what my mom has.
The MP5 is very iconic SMG.
My mom has that.
Today,
It looks just like that.
we can squeeze a lot more firepower into a much smaller package with this SIG MCX here as just one example. Now, part of the reason that we can do this is using ammo that is optimized for these shorter barrels right here. If you remember our 5.56 example, we kind of cheated. We were talking about 5.
Oh, I see that chunky 300 blackout right there. Is that what he's going to talk about? That chunky fucking 300 blackout?
Pistol barrels, but the 3,000 feet per second.
My main SBR is a 300 blackout.
This 50.
Dude, let me tell you though, 300 blackout feels so bad to shoot. It feels so bad. It's so fucking trunk. It's nasty. It's so nasty to shoot. I actually, it's nasty. It is, Doc. It's nasty. Like when you shoot it, it's so chunky. You know, it's super chunky. Am I using a can? No, I don't have one. I want one, but they're expensive.
5-grain bullet gets that only comes.
That's what I mean. It kicks. Yeah, it kicks hard. That's what I mean, Doc. Oh, what grade am I? Dude, I don't know. Where's my bullet box? Actually, I don't know. It doesn't say on here. Man, they're chunky. They're super chunky. Bullet box. Yeah, I have a box of bullets on my desk so that when I do like desk streams, I have one of every bullet in a little box so that I can like show the bullets on stream. But yeah, it feels really, really chunky. It's like when you shoot it, like you really feel it. Like it's like thunk, like every time you shoot.
Comes when you shoot it out of a 16-inch barrel. If you were to shoot it out of a 5-inch barrel, it would be slower than 2,000 feet per second, which
I
means
can actually look it up. I can tell you which ones I have. 110 grain. I use these 300 blackout 110 grain CX customs are the ones I use. That's like my main bullets, but I usually shoot like FMJ.
That is 1/3 of its speed gone, and that's
I'm using
2/3 of
110.
its
It's still
gone.
chunky. It's still chunky. Yeah, Doc. Look at me. I'm an elf woman. It's chunky.
Bullet is actually traveling slower than the 5.57 pistol round, possibly too slow to do any of that fun hydrodynamic shock stuff. So 5.56 is no good in a small package, and 5.7 is. The PS90 is probably the best example of this with its 16-inch barrel. The P90 has a 10.5-inch barrel, 10.4 I think, and then the 5.7 pistol has a 4.7, and so you can see a wide range.
Wait, is the PS90 better than the P90? The freaking stick sticking out the front of it.
And ballistically speaking, there's not that much loss in velocity, even at the shortest length. This thing
no, that's true actually. If you look at it, the velocity loss, like proportional velocity loss, is actually not too bad. I see. That's why you like thin pistols. I do have a 5.7 though. I own a 5.7. It's very sick. I have the 5.7 Mark II, which is the good one. It's the one that looks like this. The new 5.7 is ass.
And then the 5.7 pistol has a
gun.
4.7, and so you can see a wide range of barrel lengths. And ballistically speaking,
Mark III
there's
is
not
trash.
that much loss in velocity, even at the shortest length. This thing has been optimized to get up to a really high rate of speed in a really short barrel. And 300 blackout, which you can chamber a lot of your smaller things for, is kind of the same. There's a wide variety of ammos available, but this 115 grain bullet, which is basically the same weight.
I just want to clarify, when people talk about this stuff, they're talking about like super optimal maxing. This is like some min-maxer, like theory crafter sort of, like, you know, the people in the MMOs that are like, yeah, well, if you like did this before, like if you do this before like your rotation, and then like you like animation cancel like this skill like into this skill, like right on like frame on the 29th frame of the animation, then you're gonna increase your DPS by like 6. It's like
is 9mm.
It's like this basically, because still projectile go fast, hit person, very hurty is like still that's still a thing, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does matter like optimally, right? Especially if you're in a war scenario. But like if you're dealing with like a self-defense scenario, it's kind of like you're not really dealing with like armor and like all sorts of like this kind of shit. You're not dealing with it, so it's like kind of whatever. Yeah, it's only for range. Yeah, exactly.
Over 2,000 feet per second in an 8-inch barrel, which is just over 1,000 foot-pounds of energy. That's almost on par with the 5.56 round, but coming out of half of the barrel length. So if I can get carbine performance squashed down into this SMG style platform, then I don't really need or want this SMG style anymore. I actually want something that's a little bit more like, hate to say it, the MP7. I kind of would prefer that form factor than the P90. Something really, really compact. Something that would make a good home defense.
Is that why they're all making MP7s now? Like everyone's making them now.
Weapon.
30-06 is the best.
I would say for concealed carry out in public, I want a lot of controllability. I don't want over penetration. That is where something like this 5.7 round out of this relatively large pistol right here makes a lot of sense. But for home defense, I kind of want a little more power. I want a little more energy.
By the way, if you guys want to see what my 300 blackout looks like, it's on. There's a video on YouTube, on my channel. I show off. There's one video where I show my 300 blackout on there.
Because I know where my neighbors are and I know the environment better, I might actually want a little bit more penetration. So, what ammo would I like to shoot through a smaller PDW
That's the TP9
package? Well,
I like that gun. That gun's really cool.
My favorite for this
you can say 9mm
particular application is a round that was designed not for PDWs, but very specifically for a pistol. The field pistol from FK Burno is kind of a monster. It's not a particularly large handgun, but it delivers massive energy thanks to this proprietary 7.5 cartridge right here. This is a much heavier bullet
7.5
than we're getting
FK?
out of our 5.7 pistols. It is 95 grains, and it's going basically the same speed, over 2,000 feet per second, which generates 850 foot-pounds of energy. That is much closer to 300 blackout power.
That's a chunky
than
boy.
5.7 power. That is a lot of energy coming out of a 6-inch barrel, and that's huge. I really want to shoot this particular round. The problem is the gun that shoots it, the field pistol, is about $7,000. So here's some footage of other better YouTube channels testing it. Now remember earlier we were talking about
a moment of silence.
ballistics gel, which is great for tests. It's clear, so you can see the projectile as it does its thing. It's got a great refraction index for seeing shock waves inside. It has a consistent density. This is really good for tracking and doing math and stuff, but like we said before, living tissue isn't any of these things. All my ballistic gel, for example, is inside of my ribs, not a consistent density at all. I want to point out that Military Arms Channel came up with a great test for this, because he points out that you can just buy ribs at the store. Or
that's true. You could
shoot an animal. There are a lot of really interesting clips of people hunting big stag or elk with this round, which is a great test. So the FK field pistol has
that guy just showed up everyone in Moraine right now. He just one-tapped that thing. SMH.
Has massive power, but for $7,000 it's kind of a hard sell as a hunting handgun, and I don't really feel the need for a sidearm with that level of penetrating power, but I do love the round. This 5.7 round appears to be just beautifully optimized at giving you tremendous power out of a very short pistol barrel, and the projectile itself really kind of hits that sweet spot between the weight that's going to carry it a little ways and the speed that's going to give you that energy transfer. And it's short enough that it will fit in a pistol mag. It's even shorter than the 5.7.
Yeah, but it's fat.
By putting this much power into a pistol magazine, I can run it in a much smaller package than this 300 blackout over here. And you can't quite tell, but the barrel...
I want a TP9. Are those like super expensive? I want one of those. Those are so cute.
Length between the Rattler and this gun are almost identical in this much smaller package, and I can also use the same basic manual of arms as with my other sidearm. Now, one advantage that you might point out is that 5.7, even though it is weaker, has such lower recoil that when you put it in a fully automatic package like the P90, you can dump a ton of energy, and that is very, very true. However, with both hands and the brace right here, I think that the more powerful 7.5 cartridge would have very manageable recoil and technically be a more versatile round for different scenarios. In fact, let's go right now to the computer and design the ultimate perfect PDW around this 7.5 cartridge. All right, so here is our TP9 in all of its glory, and then over here is our 3D model of the TP9 as a starting point. I apologize for the crudity of this model. I did not have time to texture it or to paint it, but you get the idea. That's basically what we're working with. So the first thing that we probably want to do is address this mag here and make it take Glock mags. Actually, no, just kidding. I want to keep the
I was about to be like, bruh. He actually got me with that. I was like, what?
TP9 mag if at all possible.
It's like a meme. It's like a meme because like everyone gets like freaking hard when they hear that a gun uses Glock mags. It makes people like so excited.
So obviously there are some advantages to Glock magazine when it comes to interoperability and availability and stuff like that. But when you are going to be running a small PDW up close, you kind of want a straighter grip, so a straighter magazine. And if you're going to be running a PDW SMG kind of thing, a double feed magazine is handy. So I really want to stick with the straight mag, even though the internet's tendency is to want Glock everything.
Yep.
However, the 7.5 round that we want to support is a hair longer, just over 1/8 of an inch longer than standard 9mm. So we do need to make
People
a new
love
magazine.
to suck the Glock,
All we
you
have
know?
to do is make it a little bit longer. We might even be able to build in rails so it uses the same followers and springs and stuff like that. And then all we really have to do is grab the back of the grip here and make it 1/8 of an inch wider. We're done. Nothing to it. I mean, if you were to ask for more changes, I did have some things in mind. For example, there is a gun called the Star Z49, which is a Spanish knockoff of the German MP40. And it has a very interesting mechanism by which the barrel locks at the front, which means you can quick change barrels. Now, generally you don't need to do this with an SMG. This makes more sense for like large belt-fed machine guns with super high round counts when you want to hot swap the barrels.
Yep.
But I thought that would be an interesting thing to add to this SMG.
That's because the barrels and like machine guns, they get hot. Guns get hot if you like shoot them a lot, and then like it'll fuck up the barrel. So you'd like switch it out so that like you put a cold one back in.
However, that's something that the TP9, actually, I prefer its method of doing this. Once you take the top of the frame off, and you remove this bolt carrier group right here, you can see this is the barrel, and it interfaces very interestingly over here. So we're already basically getting the benefits of a front locking rotating barrel. They have a really good system for this. All we really need to do is make sure our magazines can carry the round, make sure that we can drop in a new barrel, which is very simple to do, and then maybe a couple extra springs in the back because of the increased recoil. Now the reason that we would want to swap this barrel out is because we'd like to be able to run some other ammo. I do think that as awesome as this 7.5 round is, it does have a couple of disadvantages. It is wider, so you can fit fewer of them in the mag, and it is kind of expensive. It's rare, not a lot of people are making it. Fortunately, it is being manufactured in the United States. That's a start. The bullets...
Hey, Ori, thank you so much. Do you think 5.7 will replace the 9mm in law enforcement? You gotta go. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so.
Are basically 30-30 rounds, so you can find the projectiles relatively easy. The case is the hard part.
Thank you for the bits, by the way.
This is a proprietary case. It's not built on anything else. It's not a necked down version of something that is relatively freely available. So this is going to be expensive. If you want to train with this gun, it would be great if you could just drop a 9mm barrel in there and use the regular 9mm mags. So that's actually really easy to do with this thing. So there you kind of have it. It's like it doesn't feel like we did a lot of work. If you wanted another change, just so it feels like we did something, I would like to add an extra inch to the barrel to get maximum performance out of the 7.5. And I guess while we're at it, we could add a mag holder that is in line here. Want to be able to carry a second mag up here. That's a nice grip there. I would like to be able to attach a rail on both sides. Oh, we could add some little flat.
Am I the only one that when that happened, I had like a shiver run down my spine? Like I felt like actually uncomfortable.
Flash hiding fins inside of this tri-lug bit right here. I think we're gonna have maybe a little bit more of a fireball with 7.5, so a couple of slots, couple of fins might work as a flash hider and still be compatible with B&T's other suppressors and their attachment mechanism. So a lot of stuff that we could make super minor tweaks to, but boy, there's just not a lot that I would change to make this better. Now, we're potentially running into an issue at this point because if we build this gun around this much hotter round, it's very possible that 9mm just doesn't have the oomph to cycle it. So our drop-in barrel for our cheap economic stuff is possibly 10 mil. It's a good thing that we have 10 mil auto, that somebody thought ahead to invent that for us. Yeah, there you go. The perfect PDW. We invented it all by ourselves. Okay, so I admit it, no real inventing took place. Not only did we just take a hot round off the shelf and stick it in a hot PDW that was already perfectly
How much
designed
are
and
those? How much are
called it an invention.
TP9s?
We're not the first person to do
Oh, and they're
this.
so cute.
Kind of everyone has done this and tinkered with this concept. In addition to 10 mil auto, Jeff Cooper also designed a round that is a lot like the 7.5.
2K? Damn, that's
it
so
was
expensive.
a 9mm Magnum cartridge.
I'll wait for my Zev, I'll wait for my Zev gun.
AKA.
Is that out yet? I've been waiting forever. I've been waiting for the FDP forever. Magpul FDP for sale. It's coming soon, still coming soon. Man.
The Super Cooper, and he got 2,000
Just wait for
feet per
PSA
second
to
with
Palmetto to
90
make
grain
one.
bullets too.
Thanks for the
Even
VTuber.
Aimpoint. Yes, Aimpoint, the optics company, developed a PDW chambered in 221 Fireball, which has a 5.7 projectile.
That's such a cool name for a round. Freaking Fireball.
With a much larger and spicier cartridge.
What do you think of the Kuna? I think the Kuna looks really cool.
Running at
I like
basically
it a lot.
rifle pressures. And guess who helped
There's
test?
like a hunger for like something new that doesn't look like everything else that is cheap as well. So I think it was a good idea.
And name that particular weapon. Yes, it was Jeff Cooper. He called it the PC-80, but it was designed by a guy named Carl Birdie Johansson. And he has a more recent PDW, which is made by Saab, of all people. Saab, inventor of air superiority fighters and inferior luxury sedans. But they have a PDW, which is really fascinating, and it's chambered in 6.5 by 25, which can also get
so cool.
2,000 feet per second out of a pistol barrel. And if you want to mess with this very cool 6.5 ammo, B&T already makes a TP9 that is chambered in it today. So, I guess there's nothing new under the sun. Dozens of companies have experimented with these concepts for many decades, and there's lots of strange wildcat rounds lying around just waiting for people to pick them up and put them into their strange machine pistol prototypes. The main thing that is different today is that thanks to guys like Jeff Cooper, there's a lot more knowledge about ballistics and firearm technology and a lot more interest. 5.7 did not make the grade to replace the 9mm in NATO, but the American free market has made it successful anyways. There is now an educated customer base that is really intrigued by this round, both recreationally and practically. A lot of people have really good understanding now of what makes for good defensive handguns. Controllable, low recoil, high energy, high round count, and a lot of people are interested in using 5.7 for that purpose. Myself included. And
so wait, does that mean my 5.7, my 5.7 Mark II is carryable now? Do I have permission to carry it now? And not be a tool?
High sales of pistol braces and 300 Blackout also show that people are really interested in something more like a home defense PDW. Higher power, more effective, longer range, but still very short and maneuverable. And I think that 7.5 is a really interesting option for that. But it is kind of interesting how far we've come and how completely we've swapped the roles here. When I was a kid, I thought the P90 was awesome and the FN 5.7 was dumb. And I was pretty sure that I would never own either of them. But now I've kind of swapped sides. I'm very intrigued by a 5.7 sidearm and a very different PDW. And I think there's actually a really good chance that I'm going to get them both.
Nice. I like the name of their company, T-Rex Arms. It's actually hilarious because T-Rex Arms looks so super dumb. I like it. It's great. I'll link you guys the video.